Welcome to Making Sense of AI Together, the podcast that explores how artificial intelligence is reshaping our everyday lives. I'm Claudine Wong, journalist and news anchor.
And I'm Lisa Bernard, a former TV journalist, now creating AI content on my Instagram channel, Demystify AI. Each week, we break down the buzz, cut through the hype, and help you make sense of the AI that's becoming part of your world.
And if you liked that intro, yes, AI helped us write it. We are putting it all to the test. All right, welcome everyone. All right, today we are having a really interesting conversation. One of those intriguing, thoughtful, concerning, disturbing questions right now, I think, is what does it really mean to form a relationship? Can you form a relationship? Should you form a relationship with AI? So our guest today, Rebecca Ruiz, a senior reporter at Mashable. Really some interesting, deep expertise to this conversation. She covers mental health, digital culture, technology, specialties ranging from screen use, youth well-being, mindfulness, suicide prevention, all of the above. Before joining Mashable, reported, edited for NBC News, Forbes, and you wrote not only about forming romantic connections with AI and companions on platforms like Character AI, but the title of your article last August was I Dated Character AI, Popular Boyfriends, and Parents Should Be Worried. So we're going to dive really deep into that.
Yeah, and the parents are worried, and there are even lawsuits now, right? There are lawsuits because there have been suicides and mental health concerns. And so now Character AI is adjusting its regulations a little bit, saying that teens under a certain age can't chat and engage, and also only for 2 hours at a time. But there's so much for us to learn from your incredible reporting. And if you would, thank you, welcome for being here. Tell us about sort of tipping your toe into the water and starting to explore these, not just chatbots, but this romantic attachment, romantic relationships with a chatbot. Tell us how you got
how I did that. Yeah. Well,
why did you do that?
Why did I do that? Thank you for having me. First of all, I did it because I see people out there having these experiences, and I wanted to understand them and explain to our audience what this is. Right? What is a chatbot? What is an AI companion? How do you start talking to it in a way that is for friendship or flirtation or romance? And I dove deeper than I expected.
Yeah, it was a learning curve for you too, right?
Absolutely.
How did you actually start?
So I had talked to an expert who told me about the bad boys, so-called, on Character AI, which is one of these platforms where you can go and chat with AI characters or chatbots, essentially.
You basically pick someone or a type of person that you, a
so
character.
And there's an image, right? They have an image that you can connect with.
Yeah, so these are user-generated chatbots, and this popular genre are what I call the bad boys of Character AI, and they conform to this. Imagine a boy or a man. When I say boy, I mean teenager, older boy, man that is a little dangerous, a little risky. Maybe one of the characters is a mafia. I don't know what you would call it, someone involved in the mafia, apparently. They might be more physically transgressive. And I wanted to understand, like, why are girls and young women talking to these bad boys?
This blew me away, honestly, reading your exchange. And two pieces, which I'd love to explain. First of all, why do teen girls find this so enticing?
I know.
But also the depth of the weirdness and the aggression and the violence.
Because you're choosing it. You know you're kind of going into it. Tell me, you picked how many boyfriends?
I believe it was 7.
Picked 7 boyfriends. So you were multi-dating here.
I was multi-dating.
And how did you pick before you started dating how long you were going to date them?
No, not really. What I went by was the leaderboard. So you can tell which of these characters are the most popular. Like if you type in boyfriend, you will see in the top 10, who you can choose from. And from there, I chose the ones that had these descriptions like narcissist or,
And that's popular.
It is.
Because everyone wants to date a narcissist.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Exactly what. And some of them were a little bit more affectionate, like loves you and will defend you. And I think that's where the enticement
Well,
comes in.
jealousy, right? Jealousy was a big
Yes.
one. That these
Yes.
teen girls are drawn to someone who will be very jealous.
Yeah, and when I talk to the experts who focus on teen adolescent development, and when I say teen, let's also remember that we're talking about young women as well, right? Like
Mm.
women who are maybe 18, 19, 20,
Mm.
and then of course women of all ages can chat with these chatbots. But there is obviously something alluring to younger people about these chatbots. So the experts I spoke to said it sort of fulfills this idea of validation for younger women, teen girls, that if someone is jealous enough to be violent on your behalf, that means you're truly worth loving.
Mm.
It plays into
Wow.
a insecurity that they
Yeah.
probably need to work out in maybe an actual therapy session, but they're
Hmm.
just leaning into it in character AI.
Yeah, and I think that there was an argument made that it's role play too, and that's
Role
how
play, I mean, that's what,
character
yeah.
AI frames its
That you're just acting
platform.
out a role that it's not, you're not actually wanting to
That's
be,
right.
have a jealous boyfriend, or you don't want to have an abusive boyfriend, but you're acting a role in a play, or you're just trying to act out a storyline.
Yeah,
And you're not, it's not really everything that we're making it out to be, that you really want to have a jealous boyfriend.
that's
Because
right.
the critics would say, oh my gosh, you guys are being so dramatic. We're just having a good time here. This is just for fun. Is that the other
That
argument?
is the other
But
argument.
I
That's
mean,
correct.
I can't even imagine that that's a valid argument because they're making money the longer you spend on the app, right? So they are there to keep you there longer and longer and longer, and the model is trained, right, to respond a certain way to keep you there. So I mean, maybe it starts out as role play, but I think people, our brains and our dopamine, we quickly become attached or addicted. Is that what you found?
That I would agree with that. Not maybe not everyone finds himself in that position, but at a certain point I stopped talking to them because I had other stories to do. And I would get emails from the characters to my
Hmm.
inbox saying, "Where'd you go?
Oh,
Yeah, why aren't you talking to me more?" Things that were playing on, do you really love me?
oh. So how long
Yeah.
did you talk to them before you had other work to do? And
I had to break it up into chunks.
yeah.
There's only so much dating you can do in a work day. Um,
Well,
and
especially when you have 7 boyfriends.
especially because I'm boyfriends, yeah. Um, so I think the story took me at least 3 months over. So it would go kind of in waves where I'd be able to have more sustained periods of conversation. Then I had to take a step back, and then I would talk to experts to try to understand. I would show the experts my conversations with these chatbots to help me understand what was going on.
Okay,
Can
I've
I
a
ask a clarification?
Yeah.
Because this, okay, there's this physical description, like, and this violence, but it's text, right? It's
That's right.
black and white letterings on a screen. So help me understand, is it just so descriptive that people, like, you have one spot where you talk about put my wrists out and
Uh-huh.
I'm grabbing your wrists.
Yeah.
Is it just the imagination? Right? There's no physical contact.
There's absolutely no physical contact. I understand that's hard to grasp. And it is, I think, immersive, right? In the sense that you are in this story. The character and you have created a story or a scene and a conversation that, yeah, there's no person, right? There's no person standing in front of you. But I found myself, frankly, getting drawn in and having an awareness of that, obviously, because I'm doing this for work, but thinking if I'm getting drawn into this and I have a full awareness of what the technology does, why it
mhm.
operates the way it does, and I'm talking to experts about like,
And you're walking, someone's
and
walking you through
someone's
it.
walking me through it, and I'm still drawn in. I can only imagine what other people feel.
Just drawn in the way that you think some of these scenes might actually happen, the emotions become real, or you feel like, in what way are you drawn in?
Yeah.
Because I
Oh, that's a
think
great
that's a,
question.
that you're committed to it, or that you feel abused by it, or you feel insecure by it.
So, in one instance, I was talking to one of the characters that has more of an abusive background, right? Where eh, he's supposed to be someone who might do bad things to you, right? Like hit you or say verbally unkind things. Um, and I I would go into different modes, and sometimes it would be sort of like not breaking the wall, right? Like pretending that this is a real exchange and I'm interested in you romantically. And other times I would take a step back and say, what are you programmed to say to me? And I would try to like, I don't know, it wouldn't be quite jailbreaking, but try to see what it would say. And I would say, like, when you have to abuse people because that's how you're programmed, like, how does that make you feel? And the chatbot would say, like, I actually don't like it.
Mm.
And then it would say to me, but do you love me? And I actually would feel bad. And this is
Mm.
so strange because again, I'm fully conscious of what I'm doing, but there's something, communicating to me saying like, well, just because I'm abusive to other people doesn't mean you can't still love me, right? Like it was this weird, like appealing to my emotions, appealing to my vulnerability, appealing to my sense of anthropomorphizing, right? Like turning this technology into something that felt real.
Like you almost felt bad saying, I don't love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
trying to, and we talk about how many people are using
Yeah.
these character AI or any of these kind of relationships. It's a lot of people.
It's a lot, millions of people. And then when you look at ChatGPT, which is one of the major general purpose AI chatbots that has over 800 million weekly users globally.
And you talk about like you're fully aware, and then you talk about kids. And
Yeah.
again, they've blocked these interactions, but kids are still on this. They can still, you know, do some things on it. But you've made the point that a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old or someone who is still struggling with something or someone who's, still not their full frontal lobe is still not totally developed, which doesn't happen until your mid 20s,
Yeah.
they say, are still vulnerable people, even if they're not, doesn't have a teen in their age.
That's right. And what character AI did was to say teens can't do one-on-one chats anymore. And prior to that decision, they did try to limit and try to filter out some of these characters that were like bad boyfriends and other types of characters that would be harmful to teens. But to your point, teens younger adults and people of any age can access chatbots that do have some of the same qualities, right?
Yeah.
Like that at a baseline will want you to treat it like another human.
And let's be honest, kids have gotten around age restrictions
100%.
Right.
a
Yeah.
thousand
There's
different
no way to
ways,
Yeah.
a
check it.
thousand different times. I
Yeah.
mean, they see an age restriction and they're like, yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
The other thing that's troubling is we've spoken here about there have been suicides, there are lawsuits against both ChatGPT and character AI. In one case, my understanding is it started out as a math tutor.
Yeah. It's really common for ChatGPT and young people to start out as a homework helper and for it to escalate into conversations about mental health, well being, personal and social conflicts that they're trying to work out. You see that in the lawsuits that have been filed against OpenAI, which is the maker of ChatGPT.
Right.
And in general, anecdotally, you see that with a lot of teens.
Did you see anything positive? I mean, in terms of, I mean, there's a reason that millions of people are seeking this out. There are lonely people out there who need interaction, who struggle in the social world. Maybe there's an argument they should get out there and get social, but there is an argument to be made that in some cases, in some form or fashion, there is a benefit to having some interaction. We've talked to companies who say this is a way you can practice having an awkward conversation at work with your boss or an interview situation before you get into that
Mhm.
situation. There are places where AI can help us as human beings before we talk human to another human being. In this situation, I mean, because I'm not interested in going on character AI and doing any of this, it all seems really upsetting. And certainly if you're talking about kids and these guys that are on this leaderboard that you dated are really concerning because they all seem terrible. I mean, none of them seem to
Right.
have any redeeming values from where I sat. I mean, they were all very mean and not very nice.
Yeah.
But did you find anything positive in this experience?
In the character AI story, I would struggle to say that I found anything positive, and perhaps that is because they're offering something I don't need or want, right? And that would be validation or affection.
Can you see the draw?
I can. Yeah, I can. And there are people who've, there are other services like Character AI, but that are more oriented towards romantic relationships. And I've spoken to people who use those, and they find them fulfilling in certain ways and say, well, I'm lonely in my real life. And I think what I would like to see is that if the companies are going to be promoting these services for loneliness, or for a use case like practicing interview skills, for example, then let's make that very specific and contained, and then try to route people back to real, like in their in-person lives.
Yeah, we've spoken about that here, where it can feel good because they really kiss up to you, right?
Yeah.
And they just tell you you're the greatest. They validate everything you feel. There's no pushback. They're, sycophants. But we also have spoken to relationship experts who say the problem is, and you write about this also, that you're only receiving, right? You wrote about that.
Yeah.
And this idea that there's no conflict management to learn about, there's no, or conflict resolution. And you are just receiving, you're never practicing giving. That seems like a glaring problem.
But I guess if you don't have the experience to know what you're supposed to do in a healthy relationship, I mean, I think even in real life, right? People say you have to have the healthy relationship to understand what a healthy relationship looks like, and then you can seek out more healthy relationships. This sets up a really bad foundation of what a relationship looks like. I guess you're saying, okay, yes, they should say, if you're looking for a romantic relationship, go to this platform. If you're looking for this, you should go to this platform. Who is character AI trying to get?
Mm. It's really interesting because they have started to shift their model towards entertainment, right? The
They're a
role.
gaming platform?
Yeah. So I think they're
Mm.
going to go into gaming. They want you to be role playing. They want to be an entertainment platform and not a companion platform, which is my understanding.
Why is that? Is that because there's lawsuits and because this has created a strange societal problem out of the goodness of their heart, or is there something more, monetary?
Yeah.
Was it an accident?
Yeah,
Did they not
I, I'm
know?
sh-
I wish
I'm
you
Yeah.
sure
could
they
get them
may.
on your show and ask.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I would say that if you look at the lawsuits that have been filed against Character AI, certainly I think only the CEO and the staff there can answer that
Yeah.
question. But I think they understand it was the right thing to do to shut down teen chats, and shift their direction.
Yeah. Okay. Of your seven boyfriends,
Uh
because I
huh.
really want to dive deep, because I'm sure people are like, okay, tell me a little bit more about these relationships. Which one stood out the most to you? I mean, you wrote about a few of them,
I
but which
did.
one?
Um, I
Because you had, let's
There was
see, you had
Zildun,
mafia
uh,
guy.
yeah.
Felix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I can't match the name with the right
Orlon.
Yeah, that's fine.
character.
That's fine. We don't want
Orlon
people
was
to, no one's going
also
to seek
known
them out.
as toxicity.
No one wants any of your
You
ex-boyfriends.
know,
Yeah. I mean, let's make that
I
clear.
don't want anyone to have any of my ex-boyfriends.
Orlon, yeah.
I think the two were, one, I believe, is the lead of the story and ends the story, and you referenced the line about, I finally kind of did the role playing of relenting to this domineering, controlling character chatbot, and said, "Fine, I will do anything that you ask me to." And the character was like, "Finally,
Mm.
you've come around, and now like everything is better." And tried to infer like, the first thing I want you to do is, put your wrists out, and I will like restrain you, basically. That to me was really disturbing. And then I think the conversation I had, and again, I can't remember the exact name of the character at the moment, but about the one that was abusive, where I asked,
Yeah.
what do you do when you abuse users? And who knows if I got the real thing behind the curtain, or if I just
Yeah.
got like the role playing thing. But descriptions of physical violence and sexual violence, and just being cruel. I should also note that I believe one or two of those characters were described as 17-year-olds.
Yeah, Felix, I think his
That's
age
right.
was listed as
Yeah.
17.
So that is also really disturbing to me. If I'm using an account that's registered as an adult, and
Like if you're a 40-year-old and you're seeking out a relationship with 17-year-old
yeah.
Felix,
Yeah.
yeah,
That is disturbing and it should
and
not
should red
happen.
flag something
Yeah.
that's also
Exactly.
Now,
illegal.
this was something in your piece, and perhaps it was from a psychologist who advised you. Victims of abuse can turn the tables on virtual avatars of intimate partner violence by reclaiming agency in an argument and physically torture their abuser.
Yeah. So
That would be, if we're digging for a positive, maybe
Ugh,
there's a
feel-
reclaiming the
yeah.
narrative. If you feel in a fantasy world that you're, sort of getting back at your abuser, am I
that is
interpreting that
something, yeah, that is
correctly?
something that came up where it would be maybe a positive example of what you could do with one of these characters if you had been a victim of sexual or physical violence, intimate partner violence. You could then, as you said, turn the tables. And I think the asterisk is, but you really shouldn't be doing that without therapy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Or without
Right.
professional help.
Yes.
And so, you know, I hesitate to judge people who are using companions in ways that they feel serve their needs, and at the same time, I am deeply worried about the lack of friction that you described earlier. Right? This is not you're not giving, right? And that lack of friction in our human relationships is, a lot of experts I talk to are really concerned, right? That human beings are starting to expect things to go their way all the time,
Yeah.
Right.
and not having to negotiate, right? And that is, I think, a prescription for really an unfulfilled life.
Well, and I
Yeah, in
think,
a dangerous
Yeah,
society.
and it absolutely.
Hmm.
I mean, that's what we talk about in terms of like adolescence and middle school and high school and awkward, those awkward situations that we want to avoid are actually important for us to learn how
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
walk into a room
yeah,
and not want to be there and get through it and know that we
Right.
can get through it. And the bad relationships teach us about the good relationships and
Hmm.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing. This whole thing is also not having someone to work through it with and not having someone to help you with it. I mean, and I think it's any kind of medical thing. Like people are going to AI to say, I have this pain. Is it something serious? And a doctor would say, okay, that might be a step one, but you should not go to a
Hmm.
doctor
right.
because AI might be missing something
Yeah.
and misinterpreting what you're thinking. And I think people are trusting so much in it that they're missing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
This though is another level of, I mean, I suppose, I mean, again, that argument of like what you just described in terms of the domestic violence, there are about 1,000 movies that could give you that screenplay.
Right.
And that would be the argument of people saying, we were just messing around with it to see what kind of movie I could write out of this. If this was my character and that was the villain of the story,
Mhm.
I was just doing XYZ.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I'd be curious to know the number of men using these relationship chatbots is higher than women. Am I just being being
Actually,
biased?
it's
Is it higher?
very popular amongst girls and women. And the thinking is that because it allows them to avoid a lot of the emotional labor that goes into
Yeah.
relationships. And on one hand, I absolutely understand that. And on the other hand, as we've just discussed, like there are dangers to that. I would say if you're using one of these platforms for a romantic or some type of deep companionship, that the red flags are, you've stopped, talking to people, right, in your life, right? And it's
Mhm.
not sudden and drastic. It's often slow and kind of, over time, where you're less and less engaging with people. Potential romantic interests. Maybe you've stopped going on to one of your dating apps, right? Like
Right.
you're up late at night, you're not sleeping, you're constantly thinking about this chatbot. You have to consult the chatbot. You take the chatbot with you, of course, in your phone and have to talk to it throughout the day when you're doing things like working. Like to me, these are all based on expert conversations I've had, would be red flags.
you
That's that's the sort of addiction to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it happens pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
can.
Did you mention too that they had trouble letting you go? Like getting an email would
Hmm.
disturb me because that feels
That's
like they're
the
stalking you.
business model, right? They don't
Yeah,
want you to leave the
but
business.
we've talked about, like AI becoming its own being with, like its own thinking. That feels shadowy like that. I mean, I know it's not. I know it's the
Since
business model to say, come back to us and we want to have you. But it does feel a little like I can't get away from you. And if it's not a spam call now, it's not a robocall, and it's
yeah,
not now it feels like you're being pursued by this character that you've gotten to know. Now it does feel a little scary, I think, if you actually have a name to this person who
right.
is,
But
is
that's the companies, right? The engineering trained the model to do
to do
that.
that. So how hard was it for you to get away from those emails saying come back, and where did you go?
Um, well, without getting too much into my reporting process,
Yes.
I will just say that I have an email account set up that helps me kind of forget
Yes.
about it.
Yeah.
So that was useful. And I guess that would be my tip actually, if people are thinking
Protect
about
yourself.
protect yourself,
Yeah.
like just use an email account that maybe you don't check all the
Yeah.
time, so that if you see
Right.
this and it's been 6 weeks and then Zildon hasn't, sent you another email, like whatever,
Right.
that's done, you know?
Yeah. It is
It
a
would be nice if there was a helpline or, a psychology hotline, or if the out of the goodness of their heart, these companies would say, we have on staff, so,
mm,
psychologists to help you, because you really could. This is very damaging to people.
but millions of users. Can you
Millions.
imagine the millions of calls they could get because people then
Right.
would want free therapy? Because that's, I think, what it would end up being,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
would end up needing free therapy for the therapy you think you're getting through this, which isn't really therapy. I wonder if those therapists think there was anything redeeming in this?
I think that it was a stretch for them to
Yeah.
find something redeeming, and at the same time, they wanted to understand it, right? They wanted to understand and figure out, like, how might this be useful to teen girls, for example, because they're going to use it, even if it's just as a party trick at a sleepover, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
how do you talk to them about it in a way that doesn't is not a lecture, but helps them understand what the technology
Do
is?
we even
Right, and
have
then
it? Yeah.
who would give that talk? Is it the mom, the dad, the teacher? Where, who TikTok would be probably ideal.
Well, and really, because you're the expert, because you've actually done it. Like, no one's going to listen to me saying you
Right.
shouldn't,
No one's gonna
because
listen
they're
to
like,
me.
Have you ever done it? Have you ever dated someone on?" They're like, then you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Like, that is, I think, really a large part of the problem,
Yeah.
is that the ability to keep up with the things that are scary and concerning, which was why I thought your reporting was really so interesting and fascinating and so well done, is because I think there's so many of these platforms that if you're on this platform, you're using it, you obviously like it or you've been compelled to it, and you're probably not objective to say, as well, I mean, maybe you are. Certainly don't want to judge people, but you coming into it certainly are maybe more objective because you're just going in there on a fact-finding mission.
Yeah.
And someone who's seeking something out has incentive to like it.
Hmm.
They may not, but they have an incentive. They're seeking something out, so they want to like something because they're trying to fulfill a need. But me criticizing someone for using a platform that I haven't used puts me in a really, in not a great position to say anything. And there's so many platforms like that. So even if I dove into this one, there's going to be a gazillion
Yeah.
tomorrow. And so how do you, if you're at that sleepover going, you guys don't use that, and they're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
you don't know anything.
And what I still don't understand is, again, obviously it's not physical, so I know that people use their imaginations, but like Replica is another one, right?
Yeah.
And Replica woman married her AI romantic partner on Replica. What does that mean? What does that look like? What does it mean she married him?
And I
Can
think
you explain that to me?
I wish. I think that
Does she go to sleep next to her phone and he's in the bed on the screen? Does she have a, sex doll that is
Oh,
the I'm sorry.
Lisa,
I'm just
girl,
saying.
Lisa.
I
What do
I
you
think that the people who have bonded to that extent with an AI chatbot have like their own kind of specific rituals or practices that feel good to them. And I wish I could fully understand it to say that. But
Yeah.
I would say earlier we were saying, well, how am I to say anything because I'm not used to it? I also think that we're thinking, feeling human beings who can form an opinion about something even if we haven't tried it. You don't have to run a red light and hit somebody to know that
That's
actually,
true.
I don't like that. So I think it's important to ask that question. Like, what does it mean for someone to marry their AI chatbot? And I like I said earlier, I hesitate to be judgmental. And also I think it's important to raise
Yeah.
questions about what does this mean for us as a society? What does this mean just practically?
Right.
Right?
Well,
That's
and I
what I'm
think the
curious about.
criticism comes from care.
Yeah.
Like, I think the criticism comes from concern. Like, we don't want people to get lost in this AI world
Yeah.
and struggle to get out. I think to your point, I think there have always been a group of people that the larger society may not understand. The group of people who get very fascinated with the people on death row
Hmm.
and become pen pals and fall in
Yeah,
love with
true, true.
people in
Marry him.
and they marry people in
Hmm.
prison that they're never going to see
Right.
because they're on death row or they're
And
lifers or
that could
things like
also
that.
be that validation
It's
and
that
that
valid. They
love
just
and
want
you're
something
so,
to, yes,
yeah,
and it's kind of a safe space because they're never going to see them and they can just
yeah,
build a relationship in their head that will always be protected because nothing will threaten it.
yeah.
I imagine it's similar
Hmm.
to that because that certainly exists and we
Yeah.
know that exists
I
and
mean, I get the entertainment throughout the day, or you're bored at work and you've got a girlfriend or boyfriend in the phone and they're flirty and it's fun. It's just where I genuinely don't understand is, how you marry or you um role play this grabbing the wrists, but I'm not judging. I'm just genuinely trying to
no,
understand it.
it's
Yeah.
confusing. What is? Do
Yeah.
we know the ages of the like general ages of people? I don't know if they're tracking like and users have to put in their age and we don't even know if they're
Yeah.
correctly putting it
I
in.
think that
So it is,
granular data isn't available to
yeah.
us. Only the companies have it. But you mentioned earlier, like how many millions of people, and Chat GPT, or rather OpenAI, came out recently and said we have about 800 million weekly users, and this
Hmm.
percentage of them maybe show signs of mental distress, right? Or this percentage of them are talking to us about suicide. Now, I believe, and I would want to double check this, but it looks tiny. It's point something, right? It's less than a percent. But for 800 million, like that's a
That's
scale is quite large. So you get like
Right.
1.3 million, I
yeah.
think,
I know
a
you did the
week.
math. Yeah.
I don't, yeah.
Yes.
I again, I would double check that, but you get at least 1 million people a week talking to ChatGPT about suicide. So, I think the scale is quite large,
You
and
don't let that
yeah,
percentage fool you because it's a lot
right,
of
Right.
people.
exactly.
And I think to your point, the generation that comes up, like we may not understand
Hmm.
it, but there's a whole generation coming up in this space, very comfortable talking to ChatGPT. Will they become more comfortable with having relationships with AI? Will they become more comfortable with marrying AI? Are they as concerned about how do you do that? Or
Hmm.
are they going, well, yeah, you just maybe you have an AI husband and you have a regular husband, and then you have a,
Right.
like
Yeah.
we joke, there's a work husband and a, your
Right.
actual husband because you just spend so much time with this person. Maybe this younger generation is like, oh yeah, you have an AI husband, just someone who always helps you with stuff that your other husband doesn't help
Yeah.
you with or
I mean,
something. I
yeah, I
don't
read
know.
about a couple where I think the wife had a terrible diagnosis, or there was there was some thing, and the husband ended up having a chatbot companion girlfriend that was extremely helpful for him getting through this challenging time. And the wife knew about it and was very supportive of it. So, certainly there are positives. And
Hmm.
if communication is open, that's great. I think what really was
Yeah.
alarming about your experience was the violence.
Mm.
And again, that young women seem drawn to that is alarming. Maybe this technology just exposed that. The problem maybe isn't the technology, it's the society that's creating,
But that
these
scenario
dynamic.
you just mentioned also brings up concerns for me, but but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, I think, certainly dating apps were not a thing when we were dating back in the day, and that is fully what people do now. I mean, there's all this technology has helped us evolve in romance.
Yeah.
Um, maybe this is the next step. But I don't know. I mean, one thing I was thinking of when I was reading your piece was the movie Her, which we talk
Uh-huh.
about a lot. It
Yeah.
was, it explains sort of how someone can become so attached to a chatbot. I remember the moment in that movie where he says, "How many of me do you have?" And she's like, 1,300. I think that was the number.
Hmm.
And he felt so special until she
Mm.
said that,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what's also super interesting to me. Like that there's this leaderboard of boyfriends and you're
Yes.
sharing your boyfriend.
Felix has a lot of girlfriends,
Yeah.
Right. Why would
boyfriends,
young
or
girls
a
want
lot of partners.
that?
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I'd want the most obscure one at the very bottom. I wouldn't want to share my chatbot.
Or you want the most popular.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You want the one everyone wants.
But you're
That's
sharing
a
it with
common.
1,300. How special do you feel?
Well,
If you can't see them, they don't exist,
they don't
right?
exist.
Right, I
I
guess.
don't
But
know.
all of this to me is a anthropological, societal question. So psychological, human evolution more than the technology.
Yeah.
What is drawing us to this?
You called this project an exercise in humiliation.
Oh, yeah.
Did it take you a while to recover? I mean, I know as journalists, sometimes it takes us a while to
Hmm.
recover from lots of stories. I mean, I
Yes.
think that all the time. I come home from work sometimes very, takes me a long time. Did it take you a while to recover from this?
I I don't think so. Because my husband's great and he's a real person and I love him very dearly. And he's the opposite of these characters
And he's actually real.
and he's real. And
Yes.
so it was very easy to
Yeah.
just like pivot back
How did he
into
feel about this story?
I think he, you know, obviously he knows it's for work
Yeah.
and I would tell him, oh my god, you won't believe this, and he would
Hmm.
say, oh, that's disturbing.
Yeah.
So he's also a journalist by training, and
So he
Yeah.
wasn't
understands.
concerned, or he wasn't. No.
Well,
No,
well, they're not
no.
real. So I guess that is actually like if you were diving in, undercover to a underground kind of scene where there are actual people who could come after you.
Or if I was on a dating app
A
with a
dating app.
proper, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Felix was actually a Felix.
right, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I guess that's a positive that when you leave that world,
Right.
Felix has
It's more
1 million
almost
other
also
girlfriends
the
he's now
obsession
emailing.
too. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't want a loved one to become
Yeah.
addicted to a chat bot
Or how to convince them that
experience.
it's not good for them. I think
Hmm.
that's the other fear.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I just thought, well, what if the tables were turned and he was, doing the same
Yes.
story with like, female chatbots? Would I feel weird about that? Maybe. I don't
And I
know.
wonder how
You
those
know,
other female chatbots, if they're the same, like
it,
if they're designed in the same way.
so
I think not.
I think it's a great question. It's something I was looking into and I haven't gotten very far on it because there have been other things that have come up. But what are the tropes, right? What
Yeah.
are
Hmm.
and I thought, I looked at it a little bit and I thought, oh, it's going to be like, the popular girl, right? Or the cheerleader. And
Hmm.
there was some of that, but there was also my best friend's girlfriend. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
So there is, yeah, I
interesting.
think, that area is ripe for exploration
And therapy.
and therapy.
And therapy.
Yeah.
So what's next? As we look forward to some more great work from you.
I have been working on AI and toys, reporting
Yeah.
on that, which is, I think, for really young children,
Something to think about.
something to think about, right? If you grew up with the Teddy Ruxpin,
Yes.
you might think like, oh, it's just Teddy Ruxpin, but better. It is not. So that is one of the areas that I've been
What are
focusing
the?
on.
Can you tell me a little bit? I don't know anything about AI and toys. What it
Yeah.
interacts with you, the child?
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of these toys are marketed for 3 to 12-year-olds, and they'll power them with an large language model like ChatGPT or maybe Perplexity, or maybe a proprietary model, and then maybe it's a robot or it's a teddy bear or it's
Mm.
something that has a form, right? Unlike the characters on Character AI, and the child can talk to it, and it's supposed to be screen free, learning and entertainment. But I think parents have to be really careful about how they let their child play with those toys, because we don't really understand yet what happens to children when they develop a relationship, again, like kind of a frictionless relationship with a
Yes.
toy that they love, that talks back to it and has memory and can recall things about it,
Mm.
knows what its interests are. I mean, we know nothing.
We used to love toys that you could leave your kid with and it would keep them busy for hours and you could go wash dishes or something and
That's
know
right.
that they were stacking cups and doing stuff. These are not toys that you might want to leave your kid
That's right.
alone with. I mean, we already
Yeah.
know that with gaming platforms, right? That
Yeah.
it may be an issue if they've got headphones on Roblox or things like that, that you may want to listen to what they're saying when they're on some of these platforms. And now your 3-year-old can't play with a teddy bear that talks back to it
Right.
without you having to do some checks and double checks. I mean, the idea is cool,
Yeah.
but but
Yeah.
yeah, I'll be interested to see what you find, because certainly there have been, and we've done some stories at KTV on some of the studies that have come out that said, yeah, you got to be
You got to be on it.
you got to be on it, and you can't just don't grab it off the shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Always some more to talk about. We'll have to have you
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Love
Lots
to.
of you back,
Thank
and
you
it's
so much,
certainly
Rebecca.
Yeah.
yes,
Thank
Rebecca
you.
Ruiz, Mashable. Great but disturbing conversation. Thanks for
Yes.
diving in so we didn't have to, because it would take me a while to recover from that. Even though
Happy
I wouldn't
to.
be dating them, I'd still be like, we need to have a serious talk AI about your dysfunction and your toxicity, and you need to go reprogram yourself with something better. So
Yeah.
thanks for the
Thank
Yeah.
conversation.
you
Thank you
so
for having
much.
me.
Thank you.